Welcome everyone to our webinar. Today's topic is enhancing visibility in SAP for rig drilling equipment transfer. My name is Alok Pant. I'm CEO of Unwired, based in Houston, Texas. And joining me today is my colleague Praveen Kale, who is our leader in this space of asset management and related applications. So Praveen, thank you for joining today.
My pleasure, Alok, and good morning to all of you.
All right, excellent. So we plan to run this for about 30 minutes. And let me go to the next slide and just talk about the agenda and some housekeeping notes. So please feel free to submit your questions using the chat or Q&A feature of the Teams application. We'll do a Q&A at the end. We can even open up the mics towards the end. And we do have a special offer for all attendees today. We are happy to offer a proof of concept if you find this business case interesting and it maybe solves some of your business problems. And we will also give a special discount on pricing should you decide to implement the solution. So with that, let me move quick overview of the agenda here. So we'll give you a brief introduction about Unwired, keep it brief. We'll talk about the topic today. Really, what are the challenges with equipment transfers in a drilling contractor or a drilling company? We'll talk about how Unwired's rig asset mover application simplifies the whole equipment transfer process. We'll talk about the key features of this app. We'll discuss a real-world case study of a drilling company based in Canada and Houston. We'll talk about the business benefits. We'll show you give you a flavor for the app with some screenshots, and we'll of course have Q&A and give you an overview of Unwired. We are a company based in Houston, Texas. We are a certified SAP partner company. We are a digital solutions company, but we really focus on the mobile asset management field service area. A lot of industrial customers, chemicals, drilling, oil and gas, manufacturing. That's our strength. And you can see some of our solutions are for asset management, for enabling operators to do asset inspections rounds, executing work orders from mobile devices, inventory management for warehouses. Right. And then we also have related in this whole area, the digital EH&S applications for, all the safety forms that drilling companies have to fill and associated safety and EHS related operations. And for those of you who have run, who run SAP, we do a lot of SAP custom app development also. But just to summarize, strong focus on digital EH&S, asset movements, asset maintenance for drilling companies and oil and gas companies in general. Our customer base is global. US and Canada are our main markets, but we have people everywhere, customers everywhere. And our key differentiators are, and the number one is we have very happy reference customers. We pride ourselves on the value we deliver. We are very cost effective. We do hybrid implementations, both remote and on-site if needed. We're very flexible. We like to listen to our customers' requirements, and we are SAP certified. So quick slide on the recognition we've got. So we've got Gartner who have recognized us for our app dev skills, and we've been featured in various reports. So let's jump straight into the topic on hand today. So I'm going to bring in our expert Praveen here. So Praveen, let's begin with you've been working with a lot with drilling companies. Let's talk about the challenges you have found that people find when it comes to transferring equipment, in a drilling setting. So go ahead, please.
Yes, Alok. So typically, drilling companies have multiple rigs that are in operation at any point in time, right? So these rigs generally have equipment that are shareable across rigs. So for whatever reason, due to adverse weather conditions, or maybe there is no demand, then maybe some equipment from one rig can be shared with another rig, which is operational. So in such a situation, what happens is companies rely on custom processes that they have in place to enable the transfer or movement of equipment from one rig to another.
Mhm.
So typically what happens is in an SAP environment, the function location structure is what describes how the equipment is installed and structured in that location hierarchy. And when one equipment moves from one hierarchy in one plant to another plant, or across one company code to another company code, then SAP allows you technically to uninstall an equipment from the previous location and install that equipment to a new location. So as far as SAP is concerned, it's a very technical transfer wherein you dismantle an equipment and you install an equipment in a new location. But unfortunately, in the real world, it is not the case, right? Wherein an equipment in a fraction of a second moves from one location to another. There is a lot of process that goes into, first of all, deciding when I have to move that equipment. How do I move that equipment? And these transfers from one location to another can typically take, uh, a week or maybe a month, depending upon the proximity of one rig to another. So what happens is between the start of the dismantle and the arrival of the equipment at the destination location, the visibility of that equipment is something which is lost within the enterprise. So people are not really aware. Let's say, for example, somebody who is doing a master data management, right? So he does not know that an equipment really has moved from the rig because he's sitting in his corporate office and somebody is physically moving that equipment from the rig to another location. So there needs to be some mechanism for him to be able to notify. So what do people do? People generally have Excel sheets where they maintain this list of assets which are supposed to move on a certain date. When do they arrive on the destination? They typically have an Excel sheet, or maybe they use emails to kind of communicate, phone calls, or maybe they have a homegrown solution which captures all of this information. But what happens is, unfortunately, it is not very efficient. And people may miss out on really dismantling an equipment in one place and then installing it in the other place. If there is just one equipment, it's okay. Maybe it's a group of equipment which are moving from one location to another. And sometimes it's not just equipment which you have configured in SAP, but maybe also non-assets, like maybe just pipes or safety equipment, which are not maintained as equipment. They may also want to be moved from one location to another. So SAP does not offer a template or a structure that allows companies to make a list of equipment or non-equipment assets to move from one location to another, right? So
Right.
because of this absence of structure, the function location hierarchy may not reflect the real state of what it is. And then some of the KPIs that people end up capturing on these equipment may be incorrect. Let's say, for example, operating hours, right? So you collect the operating hours on an equipment in a particular location, right? So even though the equipment is not there, people keep collecting, or adding to numbers operating hours on that particular equipment, giving incorrect information. So basically, from a process, it's a little inefficient.
So just to kind of elaborate on that point, so taking your example of operating hours, so people are adding operating hours when the equipment is in fact not being used. So which means that maybe you're doing maintenance earlier on than it's needed and all that, right? All that inefficiency will come in.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, and then let's see here if you want to talk about any other challenges. We have about 6 points here. Anything else you want to kind of touch upon? Delayed or lost requests, or any other thing that you want to highlight?
Yes. So some of the other challenges that we also have with using an SAP system, Alok, is how do we provide visibility of this information to other stakeholders, right? So not everybody has access to an SAP system. So even if you look at the hierarchy of the the equipment in the rig structure, right? An external vendor who is actually moving those equipment does not have access to this information. So how do you give this information to those stakeholders when they're moving equipment from one rig to another, right? So these are some of the other challenges. which companies typically face, right?
Can you touch upon the fact that the during the pickup and drop off, right? There is people have to be ready. Now it's not like when you are receiving, let's say, an equipment, right, a top drive or whatever from one location to another. Now the people who are receiving it have to prepare to receive the equipment, right? They need a heads up, right?
Exactly, yeah. So just like you have advanced shipping notifications when a delivery moves from the vendor to the customer, they generally have a shipping notification which allows the customer to prepare for that arrival of that particular equipment. Now, if you don't have a system which facilitates this process, then you don't know when an equipment is going to be dismantled and when it is going to arrive at the destination. So if this information was available, then it allows all stakeholders to be prepared beforehand.
Right.
So
Right.
let's say a rig manager decides to dismantle an equipment on the 28th of April, and then it will be received on the 1st of May at the destination. When if the rig manager had a structure or a system which allowed him to capture this information could be dissipated to all the stakeholders, and all the stakeholders would be well informed, and they can prepare themselves to both dismantle the equipment and also at the destination prepare to receive it.
Right.
And sometimes what happens is when people are not prepared, let's say at the receiving location, if the equipment arrives and people are not aware that, hey, the equipment is arriving today, they may not have taken enough precautions or measures to store it safely, which may result in damage to that equipment. Maybe it's raining, it needs to be shielded properly. Maybe for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
So we want to avoid damages to equipment which is around it. So if you're prepared, such things will can be avoided.
Okay, so just to summarize this part on challenges, suffice it to say that there are supply chain ramifications, cost, maintenance, associated with inefficient sharing of information during this whole process, among other things. So let's move on. So I think you've articulated the challenges well. So let's talk about, and you talked about how people are using email, phones, and spreadsheets, and the Envired's Rig Asset Mover. This app basically eliminates all those manual paper-based processes with a much more, I guess, elegant solution with a web and mobile app that works offline. So talk a little bit about the Rig Asset Mover, how the dashboard and the application really helps streamline this whole equipment transfer.
So the Rig Asset Mover is a solution, Alok, that we have built based on the experiences that we've had working with customers in the drilling industry and all the challenges they are facing, right? So this solution is something which addresses all of their issues in a very intuitive manner. It gives them access to the entire solution, both in a web interface as well as in a mobile device, to handle offline scenarios as well. Yeah. So if you look at the kind of transfers that we're looking at, right, equipment when we're moving it, so we have two kinds of equipment transfers. One is equipment transfer within the rig, and then we have equipment transfers across rigs, right? So if you're moving equipment within the rig manager can do it himself. He does not need to involve a transporting company, a shipping company, and all of those stakeholders are not required. If it's a move within the rig, he has all the resources at his disposal to actually make that move possible. Let's say he wants to move a generator from one location to another within the same function location hierarchy. So if you typically look at the SAP system, you have the transaction IH01, which gives you a hierarchical view of the entire rig structure, right? Now, what you do is you can select an equipment, go into the details, and then you do a dismantle. And then again, you have to go to another rig structure, and then you have to find the location and then do a installation there. So what happens if you have been using an SAP screen, you know that how unintuitive it is, right? You have to do a search, and then you have to search by descriptions. You may not have a location if you may have a location with an equipment already installed, maybe you have a function location which says only single equipment is allowed. So you really want to show the rig manager locations which are open to receive equipment. And if it's shown to you in a tree view, wherein you can just drag and drop, you can say, okay, this equipment is here, and I would like to move the equipment from this location in the tree to this location, the destination location in the tree. So he can very easily move it in a single click from one hierarchy to another within his rig structure itself. So this is called as an internal transfer. External transfers, are a little more complicated. So external transfers, what happens is you may be moving an equipment, within the same country, or you may be moving, equipment across countries. So it is cross-company transfers, right? So when it involves, a cross-company transfer, you may have to, provide a document or a structure. So let's say when you order for a material, you create a purchase order. You say who's the vendor. You list all of the materials involved in that transaction, and then you create a purchase order. Similarly, in a rig asset mover, we allow the rig managers to create an intent to move assets from one location to another. And there are different kinds of moves that we allow. We can move equipment from one location to another, function location to a function location. We can move from function location to just a location without a temporary location without a flock structure. And so all these different source and destination combinations are allowed. The rig managers can specify who are the stakeholders with their email ID and phone numbers. You can have more than one equipment in that equipment transfer request document, right? So you can pick all those equipment from the rig structure, from the hierarchical tree view. Along with this, you can also add non-SAP equipments to that list. So let's say I want to transport 3 pipes. I want to transport 3 harnesses along with this. Mm-hmm. So all of these are captured in one equipment transfer request document in the rig asset mover. And then when the rig manager is ready, he says, okay, this is the dismantle date and this is the arrival date. He can submit that request for processing in the system.
But to summarize, so basically it's a web and mobile app that works offline and facilitates all the things you mentioned about moving the assets and all that. Let me go to the next slide and see if you already talked about document transfer. Is there anything else you want to highlight as far as the Unwired Rig Asset Mover goes?
Yeah, so the rig asset mover, like I said, it helps people, all the stakeholders informed in real time. So the moment there is a change in a particular status of the equipment, when the request is created, you can have emails sent out, you can have MMSs sent out to reach out to stakeholders who do not have access to a SAP system. So through an MMS, you get the complete bill of lading, so to say, right? You have the complete structure of the assets which are moving from one location to other, what date and when, right? So everybody is better prepared.
And I believe we have integration with Twilio, right? For examples, because a lot of people may not have email. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. So you can use messaging gateways like Twilio to enable that integration possible. And then what some of the other things that happen in rig transfers is sometimes the rig might unintentionally, go to a different destination or a different location, in which case those rig managers have the option to reject and say return to the original source so that the rig manager can make corrections on that document. And then they can, do a proper move, right?
So let's move to the case study, Praveen. So basically, this is an app that a web and mobile app that integrates with SAP and works offline and does basically simplifies the whole pain that is associated with moving assets. So let's spend a couple of minutes on this drilling company in Canada and US where we've deployed this. Why don't you just highlight maybe some of the things or challenges we found on with this customer, or really the most interesting aspects of this project?
Yeah, some of the interesting aspects of this was the need for them to have a mobile version of the solution, because rigs do not have connectivity to SAP systems, or they're not online all the time. But they would still like to capture the assets which need to be transferred in an offline mode. And whenever they have connectivity, they would like to process this document. So we enabled the rig managers with a mobile application that allows them to capture the intent to move equipment. And once they come to a zone of connectivity, they were able to process this equipment, transfer request, and all the stakeholders would, then be informed. So this is something which, they could do. And some of the advantages or the benefits that the drilling company achieved was in terms of, like I told you, KPIs. People capture KPIs on these assets, like
KPIs
operating
being
hours.
key performance indicators.
Exactly, key performance indicators. One of them could be operating hours. So the operating hours on a particular equipment determines the kind of maintenance that needs to be carried out, right? So if the operating hours on an equipment are being captured incorrectly because of its presence in a function location hierarchy where it's not supposed to be, then it means that this engine in the system, in the books, has run for 1,000 hours, which requires maintenance, right? So 1,000 hour maintenance would mean an oil change. It could mean some other spare parts which need to be changed and all of that. And this is incorrect because the equipment was actually not there. It was actually in transit, but you're still capturing the KPIs because of the processes that they had. Now, this application allows them to, have real-time tracking, wherein the moment the intent is made to, move a particular equipment on a certain date, such discrepancies or capturing of incorrect KPIs against equipment will be avoided, so that you have the proper information being captured for maintenance on those equipment, resulting in cost savings, labor savings, and basically a lot of profit for the company.
And even higher production, right? Because you're not putting an equipment out of service unnecessarily.
Absolutely.
It's close to the top line. All right, so we have 3 screenshots, and then we'll also open up for questions and answers. So I'll just show you the 3 screens so you can talk to them. One is the equipment transfer, the search, and the track equipment. So let's begin with maybe this one.
Yes, absolutely, Alok. So what you see on your screen right now is we have just removed some information on the screen. Just we're keeping the headings so that people can at least relate to what they're seeing. So you have typically on a equipment transfer request or a rig move, you have the from, the to. The from can be a plant, or it can be a location, or a function location, and the destination can be one of these locations or an FLOC. You have who are the people involved, what are the different equipments which are being transferred. Each equipment can be individually installed and uninstalled. You have the tracked equipment that you see on the left, and you have the untracked equipment on the right as 2 tabs. Untracked equipment is basically all those which are not maintained as equipment within SAP, right? So this is basically a structure of this document, and you have the options to submit it, share it, and you see that the status is which says unconfirmed. So you can individually move equipments from one location to another and confirm it over a period of time.
Okay, so this is creation of the intent or the request, and then we have the search of the equipment.
Yeah, so then you have the equipment, so reporting, right? So another advantage of having such a process, such a system in place, is the ability to look at the complete history of how the equipment has moved over a period of time, why it was moved, right? And all the people who have been involved at for those durations. So sometimes it is difficult to get such information. I mean, basically, it's not possible to get this information in the SAP system currently, but companies can benefit a lot by looking at how the equipment has moved across rigs. And if there was a damage done, who was responsible for it? Basically, accountability in terms of how the equipment was maintained, right?
Okay, and then the last one is tracking the equipment.
Yes, tracking the equipment. Now this screenshot here basically tells you, you can see some of those lines which are highlighted, right? So the ones in orange indicate locations which are open to receive equipment, right? So when you look at the SAP equipment structure, you have attributes like a single equipment installation allowed in a particular function location. So that's a master data attribute in SAP. So if you have such a configuration, then you should only show locations which can receive an equipment without the user having to search through the entire hierarchy, right? So this hierarchy, based on how complex your rig structure is, can be 5 levels deep, can be 10 levels deep. So what is the point in showing me the entire tree when I can just show you the locations which are open for receiving equipment installations. So this is just a screenshot that allows you, just gives you a glimpse of how easy it is for rig managers to manage the installation and uninstallation.
Okay, great. So let's open it up for questions and answers. Again, just a reminder, we are offering a POC to people who are attending this webinar and special discount on pricing. All right, does anybody have any questions? Please feel free to ask them right now. Okay, so Praveen, while we are waiting for questions, if they do come, how do customers get started on the POC? Do you need any data from them, or I understand that this can either be a standalone solution, right? Just a web and mobile app, or it can be built on the SAP, BT Business Technology Platform stack. I don't think that's very important, but what would you suggest? Let's say if somebody wants to start with the POC, how can we get them to take the first steps?
Yeah, so the POC, very simple, Alok. So we can get a function location extract from whoever intends to work on this POC, and then we can replicate their rig structures within our system. And using our SAP system as the backend, we can enable the mobile application and a web application for them to just experience the entire solution and get a feel for it. So this solution is something which works on both SAP ECC as well as S/4HANA. So customers, no matter what version of SAP they're running, they can definitely benefit from the use of this solution.
And this can be deployed on cloud and on premise. Both options are okay.
Yes, both options are possible. So if people who are not very far down the road in terms of their technology investments, who have not used BTP, they still can continue to use the solution on premise on their SAP ECC. But for people who have made investments in the business technology platform, we also offer the solution on the cloud for you.
Okay, so the POC would be the same like we do for our mobile work orders or digital forms, get some data from the customer, put it in our system, and give them access to it so they can play with their whether via the web or the mobile devices, right? Okay, absolutely. All right.
There's a question in chat box. Any capability to post costs on move? Thinking material transfers?
Okay. So yes, well, so what exactly do you mean by posting costs on the move? Maybe if you can just elaborate on that, I can maybe answer that.
Praveen, I think it would be the cost of the asset, right? It's going from one legal entity to another, one company code to another. So an asset has, let's say it's $1 million. Can you move? Is that probably something like that?
Praveen, it is billing the well that receives the equipment.
Okay. So in terms of, the costing itself, right? So there is no cost element associated with the documents that we're really creating. So we are looking at moving the assets from one location to another and ensuring that the rig structures, the function location hierarchies are consistent, before and after the move. So that is what we capture as a part of this. But if there are any, cost related information that is over and above what is already achieved by moving the assets from one company code to another, one plant to another, then that is something which we can also, easily extend the solution to, capture that. Maybe I think we can have, a detailed discussion on this particular topic. Well, I mean, if it was not the most comprehensive answer.
We can follow up certainly we'll follow up. I guess the one point I would like to add here is we do integrate with a lot of different systems. So in this case, if it means integration with the FI or CO module for your internal cost purposes, cost accounting, we can certainly enhance this app to integrate with those. But we will follow up with you, perhaps have a separate session for you. So any other questions? So thank you for that question that was posed to us. We appreciate that. Thank you everyone for your time today. We hope this was helpful and look forward to receiving any more inquiries from you and continuing the conversation. Once again, thanks everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you all. Goodbye.